But
So,
instead, the true Wellesian film, Urban Legend.
oh yeah, of course. Talk about Jamie Blanks. I had to look up who he was. Like it sounds like a porn star, man. Um, it was this Jamie Blanks. Oh, I saw. I'll talk about it on the thing. We can record whenever.
I hit the record. This is all recorded.
Okay, like the part about me saying Jamie Blanks
Sounds
porn.
like a porn filmmaker. Yeah, that's in there.
Okay, okay, cool. Well, yeah, today we're talking about Urban Legend 1998, directed by Jamie Blanks, as you may know. He also directed another slasher film called Valentine, which I had forgot existed until I looked up who he was. And I saw that movie when it came out in theaters, and I was like 12. We might like it. We might need to rewatch it because it's a David
I haven't seen it.
Boreanaz. It's David Boreanaz. Like we
What's
gotta
his
watch it.
character like though? Like, is it an angel type character or is it a?
His character is like a kid who is made fun of in school by a bunch of girls, so he goes and kills those girls.
Oh, he's the killer. He's okay.
Oh yeah, major.
I I was expecting like something more like Jared Leto in Urban Legend, like this kind of
um,
bright-eyed youth.
no, I mean I really hope it didn't spoil anything for Valentine viewers. I mean I don't like that's all I remember about the movie.
I
You know,
don't think the Valentine fans are gonna be cursing your name on the Valentine forums somewhere on the dark web. I think you're okay.
true. Well, that's Jamie Blanks' claim to fame is making these two slasher movies. Um, I honestly thought because Urban Legend is very like near and dear to my heart. I had like messed up parents or something because I watched like slasher movies all the time growing up. I've probably seen this movie like at least 50 times, if not more, in my life. I've seen it so many times. Most of those times was when I was like 12 years old and just really obsessed with this kind of genre of movie making. But I thought that this movie generally was more liked and appreciated than it was, and then I go and look at like general consensus ratings for this movie. I'm kind of surprised to see it so abysmally low because it's really good. The rewatchability is still there. I've watched it quite a few times leading up to just this video in the past week. I think it's still there, and I just want to set the tone for this conversation. I did take down a few notes, but not as many as I probably should have because most of this page is just a drawn heart with the name Brenda. I put the name Brenda right in the middle, just to set the tone. I guess that's yep. Brenda. Brenda is fucking amazing. We'll go into her in a little bit,
Rebecca
but
Gayheart is just remarkable in this movie.
outrageously good and outrageous. We'll get into her. I almost want to go like death by death, or but first I want to know basic relationship to the movie because some of these deaths like are really fucked up
Oh
too.
yeah,
But
for sure, for sure.
what was your relationship to the movie? Mine, like, it's just very near and dear to me. Like, on the faculty, we talked about how seeing the Dimension logo brings up warm, fuzzy nostalgia feelings. I have the same, like, it's not as much as the Dimension logo, but seeing Neil H. Moritz's name as
Oh,
a producer
Jesus.
is, like, almost just as nostalgia bomb inducing. I mean, his name appearing on I Know What You Did Last Summer and Cruel Intentions and Urban Legend, it's like he had his hand in a lot of crafting of of teen films at the time. I think he went on to do Fast and Furious stuff, which is fine, whatever. But he's up there for me with the Dimension logo. But
No, I feel that.
what was your relationship to the movie?
This is similar to Faculty, a recent one for me. Although this time it wasn't one you recommended. It was one I think I saw because another friend of mine was a fan of it and brought it to my attention. I watched it probably sometime in August or September, and I fucking loved it, dude. I loved it. Like it's funny, because it's like I couldn't quite put my finger on what it was about it because I'm like, I don't think this is as clever or even like as subversive as a lot of its contemporaries, but I like it so much more. you know.
Well, yeah, I
We'll get into that. There's some
we
though,
will. We'll get
but
into we'll get into the
yeah,
name Kevin Williamson soon and see if it stacks up
yes,
against the works of
but
him. But I don't. I mean, spoiler alert. You think it does? I think it's a great movie,
well, actually,
but I don't. I
I
don't think it's Scream great.
I actually
Not even
don't,
close.
but sort of. But anyway, I'll get into it. But yeah, I watched this a few months ago. I really, really loved it. I was wondering how it was gonna hold up if I watched it again, so I watched it again yesterday, and
Well,
it
yeah,
holds up so well. It's so
it holds
rewatchable.
up so
It's
well.
amazing. Like I already want to watch it again. It's
Like,
so
here's
fun.
something I can definitely say without going directly into the Kevin Williamson thing. When I was a kid growing up, like watching Scream and Scream 2, and I know he did last summer, was kind of like comforting because, uniquely Kevin Williamson horror movies are about like success rather than failure. Like a normal horror movie is about
Yeah.
failure rather than success. Urban Legend, I remember, gave creeped me out a bit more when I was a kid because it is so dark and it is technically a film about success, but for the killer, not for not for our heroes.
Yeah, no, I think it's one of those. I mean, I guess it taps into the my things I like because I didn't watch it as a teenager, obviously, but as a teenager, liked horror movies that were more on the sad side or on the darker side, like slashers. I mean, um, and this fits that mold, like the more like almost more 2000s than it is 90s in a few ways. At least how it
It's
treats
a
its
bit ahead of its
victims.
time.
How it treats
No,
its
for
victims, I
real.
think it's like that.
And it just speaks to the caliber of Williamson's writing that one that a really great the only other really great, not only other, but one of the only other really great slasher movies besides like Cherry Falls that has nothing to do with Kevin Williamson still has a hard time ranking against Kevin Williamson's worst from that time period. It just speaks to the quality of writing for some reason that Kevin Williamson was able to do. But I have so much to say about like every character. But
It's it's
like
really great because, or go
it
ahead.
has two of like I will like Scream and Scream 2 have some okay deaths. Like what's great, like Williamson has that's really good are like the moments before the deaths, all the characterization.
Yeah, I know
That's
what you
really
mean.
good. This one, like the visceral feeling of these deaths, has two of my favorite deaths in slasher movies in one movie. And we'll get to them because I want to go almost in order of deaths and like go from there. Like let's start with the opening, which isn't on my list of one of my favorite deaths. I remember being very annoyed by this scene when I was younger. And I'm
I
still
can see
partly
why.
annoyed by the
I
main
can
character
understand.
today, by the character, not the main character of those scenes today. Still kind of partly annoyed by
Brad
her.
Dorff. Brad
But
Dorff.
I love Brad Dourif doing his best Billy Bibbit revival.
He's in the back seat. It's
It's like,
the roundabout way he goes to tell her.
I know I don't want to be one of those assholes who points out like a superficial flaw in a superficial movie, but like write it down.
I mean,
Like,
it's one of those things though that's it feels very particularly 90s, the staging of that setup, like because I didn't question it. I didn't question the logic in the moment. I didn't question until after the scene, like after the scene happened. I
yeah,
was like, that was kind of stupid, but in the moment of watching the scene,
no,
it
it's
it was fantastic. It's like watch I you might disagree that it's like as good, but it reminded me a bit of like the opening to Scream insofar as it's like just this really protracted and well set up and absurd murder sequence, just that
true, but
like like there's twists within the scene. Like it's one scene that has like at least three or four twists that take
yeah,
place, and
I, I I would agree that it's similar, but I would just it doesn't hit the same way. The reason I do like that scene now is because I didn't get the black comedy joke when I was a kid. I didn't put two
mm,
and two together that
yeah.
she's singing the Bonnie Tyler song, like "Turn Around, Bright Eyes," and she gets her head chopped off right after she sings "Every Now and Then I Fall Apart," and I was like, Jesus, how did
There's
I
a lot
not
of that
get
in the
that?
movie. The movie's really funny. That's the thing. It's like
It
for every
is.
moment that's incredibly sad, it's also incredibly funny.
And right from the beginning with the opening titles and the rain and that music, you get a vibe, and it's not
It's very 90s, yeah.
it's really 90s, but it's really atmospheric 90s. It's almost Burton-esque, the first vibe you get with the
Oh, you know
choral.
what? I can get that with the music too. The
Yeah,
music over the credits. Yeah, it definitely has that vibe. I can see
it's
that.
And it works because you are entering into a world of modern folklore in a way. Like it
Yeah.
does work for the purposes of this film. So that opening scene is good. I love seeing Brad Dourif. There are annoying qualities to it. Like I don't think here, at least I don't know. Maybe it's Drew Barrymore's inherent likability and maybe Williamson's characterization, but I don't care if this lady gets her head chopped off. I was hoping and waiting for it.
No, I definitely think like the emotional attachment comes later to other characters because
Yes.
and I think what this
Pretty
movie does
immediately,
really.
the
Oh yeah,
next death is one of my favorite horror characters from the 90s is the next death.
is
So
that
like
is that Joshua Jackson? Is that
I could talk about Damon Brooks, Joshua Jackson for conservatively 14 hours straight.
it's a
There's so
real
much complexity to him in
it's a
four
real
scenes.
it's a real Anthony Hopkins thing. Like just he's in the movie for maybe like 6 minutes,
Such a
and he
huge impression. And they bring
he's
him up for the rest of the movie too,
oh
because
yeah
he's the
they do.
only one they can confirm is like missing. It's
Yeah,
like,
yeah, he what an impression he left. He's the one that people missed the most.
dude is in four scenes and lies in every single scene that he is in.
It's that one scene, like the scene that leads up to his death. It's just that's so upsetting to watch. But
I love that's one of my favorite slasher movie deaths. He gets the first one, but I love that he like lies. He's just like full of shit for all four scenes. The first scene he's is when they're saying Bloody Mary 5 times in front of Stanley Hall, and he pretends to be like a dead spirit come back to life or some bullshit. So that's like lie number one. Lie number two is the brilliant, and we can actually go into this scene before we go to his death.
oh, I know
But
it. Yeah, yeah, yeah. The actual
the pop
introduction of
rocks,
urban legend. Yeah,
yeah, the pop rocks and cola scene, and we get a lot of
you get
they lay down the themes pretty thick in this scene.
also Robert Englund. Yeah.
Of course, the ultimate red herring.
Oh yeah. Also another character. This whole movie is just full of great characters that are only in the movie for like 5 minutes, and then you never see them again. Like he's barely in this movie, but he's the best. He's
This
the
is
best because
Robert's true, yeah.
you think he's the villain for the whole movie. That's why
It's
it
his
works.
only true scene. Like the other, he is in it later, but maybe for two
Oh yeah, he
lines
barely
in
talks
a
in them,
scene. Yeah, this is
and
it.
then you just see
This is
his
it.
body in a trunk.
And I love these late '90s and early 2000s slasher movies because it really plays into like the performative nature of teens of young people.
Yeah,
It
my,
normally, at least in a death, it puts them on a stage or puts them in some place where you can hear it, or it does like something like what it does here, where a teacher, an adult, an authority figure puts these people in a terrifying circumstance in a performative way. But of course, Damon Brooks inverses the situation, um,
yeah,
plays on the performative quality of that situation and do his own little performance act of actually the whole thing is trying to get Rebecca Gayhart's character who like mocks the professor Wexler in class to go up there and drink pop rocks and Coke soda, just like the Mikey kid from the commercials did, according to the urban legend, who is now dead because it like fucks up your insides. That's the urban legend, and it's all about trying to get her to do it. And Wexler knows that she won't, but Damon Brooks, Joshua Jackson, goes up there and just does it right away because he sees a moment to perform and
yeah. It's so good.
pretends to die, and it's wonderfully done, actually.
I also love that scene because, and maybe this is a real thing, but why is that classroom so fucking enormous? Why are
It
they
is
giving like this
enormous.
stadium-sized classroom for a guy teaching a folklore class?
It is enormous, and one of okay, maybe three of my favorite slasher movie characters because Brenda and Damon are huge.
Oh yeah, because I
Parker,
was gonna say Damon's not even my favorite in the movie.
I love Damon though. We haven't even gotten
Uh,
to his death where he gets kind of weird and frisky. Like Parker is also really
yeah,
high
I
up.
was gonna say as far as like the jackasses in this movie go, my favorite is Parker. Parker's fucking hilarious every step.
Michael Rosenbaum was never this good again. He had so much energy. I don't want to
He's
theorize it
so
was drugs, but he was so fucking amped. He's just eating like a hoagie during this scene, just laughing.
my my favorite is at the begin the introduction to all the characters like after the opening, the
Oh
cold
yeah, we
open
missed
when
Jared Leto's self-absorbed fucking
yeah, well, oh, I'll get to Jared, but when he's telling the story and they're like, I think it's Rebecca who says like, what did he teach? He's like, I don't know, physics or some shit. It's just the way
Yeah.
he says it, the way he's like, I don't know, physics or some shit. It's so funny.
What do you mean, paper boy? Like, it does, like, that's, we'll get to the scene later, but one of the besides the Rebecca Gayheart reveal scenes, one of the best acted scenes is Michael Rosenbaum drunk at the party screaming at Jared Leto. Like, I love that it sows the seeds for that early on. It's a good characterization moment.
It's
We can
really
get that
good.
arc.
He for me at least, along with to a lesser degree, Danielle Harris steals the show.
Oh yeah, we'll get to Danielle. That's
Yeah, you saw me tweet about that.
I was gonna tweet the same thing just without any good joke applied. And I'm like, I don't want goth guys to actually IM me. I don't know if they'll know what
I
this
don't.
is from.
It's so, goth for goths. Look, she's
Oh,
introduced having
geez.
sex to Spook Show Baby by Rob Zombie.
And then she would later work with Rob on Halloween, who got her
Is
nude.
she? Is she
Yeah,
in? I forgot that. Who did
she's
she
in
play in that?
she's in the
Oh my
remake.
God!
Yeah,
Yes, that's her. Because
which is
yeah,
wild
I'm a
because
fan
she's
of
the
Unlike
child
Justin, but
actor. She's like the child actor from numbers 4 and 5. It's so
oh
weird
my,
and pervy to see her in Halloween like that.
that's
I have many
so
issues with Rob
weird.
Zombie, and like
I'm a fan of, by the
sexualizing the
way,
child star from the original movies is part of it. Like I can,
I'm a big fan of those movies, and actually, I'm pretty sure she's my favorite part of the second of his movies. But well, that's a different video. We're on her.
it's not on my channel. That's not my channel video.
Okay, Justin and I will do that.
Yep, you and Style is Substance will do that video. Um,
But yes, go back to
Parker
Damon.
is just fucking awesome. I do
Yes,
want to say one more thing about Parker. Like, I don't know. I do like quoting this movie sometimes.
it's very quotable. It's very
It
in a
really
weird
is.
way. It's not quite guaranteed to jack you up, but it's close.
Yeah, it's not. Eeny, meeny, miny, mo. We'll get
Oh,
there. I do not appreciate that, by the way, but we'll get there. But
all the
okay,
best quotes
Damon.
happen in the last 15 minutes, really. But yes, go back to Damon. Go back to Damon.
True. I do love Damon. I love how he inverses the whole like performance thing for the kids. Cuz normally in slasher movies, like I said, these kids are and it happens to and it ends up happening to him. Killed in a performative way so that people can hear you and people can see you, that kind of thing.
Mhm.
But I do like that he takes that moment to kind of inverse a popular trope, or at least like I mean, for me, like watching it, I don't think Wexler's the killer because of how unprepared he was to handle Damon fucking Brooks. But then again, that could be a reason why he killed him first. I understand that too, but ah. So the next time Damon lies, though, but do we want to spend more time on the urban legends he talks about? He talks about urban legends as folklore that societies use to gauge their values. I
Yeah,
mean,
it's
I
pretty
think,
straightforward.
yeah, it's pretty straightforward. We'll talk about like how Brenda's killing spree plays into what that society's values or shapes whatever. We'll talk about that when we get to her, really, because at this point Damon's just mocking the whole concept, and Parker
Mhm.
does this through the entire movie. He picks up where Damon leaves off. Damon's just mocking this whole concept. The third time Damon lies is when they're I'm going to go through all of Damon's lies because they're sitting around talking about how sad it is that Michelle got killed, and like secretly
Oh
Natalie
yes,
knows
yes, yes,
her.
yes,
And he
yes.
goes, I did know that girl. I feel so sad, and everyone takes him seriously. And he says, that girl gave great head. Get it? She gave
It
great head because her head got cut off.
it's he's such a piece of shit, and
Yeah, he
but
is.
he does it so well. Like he maybe it's because I know these people, but
He really,
I
he just
know
does it
I've
perfectly.
met people like Damon Brooks, so I'm just like, you piece of
I mean,
shit.
I can't think of a better second kill in a horror movie than the Damon Brooks character. Fucking super memorable. Like compare it to anyone else. Like
I guess
Henry
it's good
Winkler in
because
Scream and Sarah Michelle Gellar in Scream 2. They don't add up. They don't compare.
no, I think it is kind of a Sarah Michelle thing where it's like it's a character that you expect to be there for at least the bulk of the movie just because of what a
Yeah.
presence they hold on screen. And you can tell they knew he was going to be a presence on screen because they insist on him so much in like every scene he's in. So you expect him to be there longer than he is. So I think it's a really good effect that they kill him so soon.
Then we finally get to Damon's death. And this happens about 30 minutes into the movie. It's just wonderful. He has these 4 scenes of characterization where he does get worse and worse, but like it's still wonderful. He pretends
Yeah,
to
it's
be
a really fucked up scene. It's a
yeah,
nice guy scene.
it's a
I'm a nice
nice, it is
guy.
the nice guy scene. And I love that it plays off of my favorite meta joke of the movie is him trying to start his car. When it finally gets going, you hear, "I don't want to
I want to
wait," and
wait for
and he and he slams on it and goes, "Oh God!" So of course, I don't want to wait for my life to be over. He will die in the next scene. But more importantly, that is the theme song to Dawson's Creek, the show that he was the star of, or one of the stars of, and it's a Kevin Williamson production too. But I love that he annoyingly turns it off and goes like, "No, enough! I don't want to do that. Enough of that." Like that's a cool little inside joke kind of thing.
I
But
actually
then
didn't
we get
catch that.
it's a brilliant moment. I think I love it. That moment just gets me amped because I'm a huge Dawson's Creek and Joshua Jackson fan. But then we get to the tree where it is the ultimate nice guy scene, and and he starts
So
saying, I know someone who died. My girlfriend died. She had a syndrome, and I have
syndrome.
so much love to give and stuff. And she ends up punching him because he gets a bit. The word is probably rapey. He gets a bit handsy, and she ends up having to punch him because he won't stop. I mean, he eventually does. Calls her a bitch, and a really like interesting line delivery because it's really harsh the way he
Yeah.
delivers it for someone you're supposed to care about dying in 5 seconds. He goes
They
like,
do a
"You don't have to
really
be
good
such a
job of making you
bitch."
not care about him dying at all, so you can just like enjoy the aesthetic of how he dies, I
But it
feel.
doesn't work because it's Joshua Jackson with his Cruel Intention style platinum blonde hair looking like a fucking god. He's awesome. He's awesome. Very attractive fella and very charismatic. Loved his death. This death is very interesting.
It
Because
does. It does because it introduces like the classic thing of every time a murder happens, there's no proof of it happening, and so she
what I think really interesting about this, because the urban legend that they use is the one that's kind of supposed to scare women away from having premarital sex, and like this starts fitting into a little pattern where like Natalie already completed the moral of the story, like she wasn't going to sleep with Damon anyway, and like if the moral of that urban legend was to not have sex, because it's the one where the boyfriend
yeah,
is
yeah, the
hanging from the
boyfriend.
car and you hear the scratching on the she hears the scratching on the hood of the car from
And they comment
inside.
on that because then Rebecca Gayheart in the next scene, she's like, "Wait, you were making out with him?" And she was like, "No, I wasn't actually."
Exactly. And it's interesting. It's really funny how we're saying how unlikable Damon Brooks is, because even in most slasher movies, every character has like a save the cat moment, unless it's a really despicable moment. Every character has that moment where they do something good that you're supposed to like they make you laugh or do something. Like even Damon's jokes, I don't think landed on purpose, deliberately. Like she gave good head, it didn't land, and it wasn't supposed to land. It was supposed to be just a bad joke. But I really felt for this character, and I like the fact that what actually kills him is like the ultimate like rejection of him, which is Natalie driving away in the car as fast as she can, is
Yeah,
what actually kills Damon Brooks. Like Natalie kills Damon. Like no,
technically, yeah.
technically, yeah. Which is kind of like the ultimate rejection of his advances, and he falls down and slams through the windshield. We need to leave Damon. I can literally
Yeah.
talk about this one
No, no.
unimportant character for the remaining part of this video, and I don't know
On
why I can, but I can't.
on the subject, I think Alicia Witt is fantastic.
I think she is mostly very good. Yeah.
I don't know. She has like a certain charisma. I felt like not quite like she kind of has like that Nev Campbell energy where she's like the only character in this world that makes sense that isn't like
True.
a cartoon. Like she has that energy of someone who's like in this absurd situation. She's like, what the fuck is happening to me?
True.
That's why I
Yeah,
think
yeah,
like
she's
scenes
fine.
like later, the first scene to actually like humanize Jared Leto is the scene where she's just like crying because no one believes that these things are happening to her, and she's being like criticized for lying and things like that. She's just like breaking down. And it's like, all right, I feel for you because this is absurd. The situation you're in is absolutely absurd. But
Oh, yeah, you're absolutely right.
and Jared Leto, of course, is well cast as a piece of shit.
And he was cast for that dark quality that he has. We can talk about Jared now because he doesn't die.
Yeah,
Um,
actually, I I was like, I'm kind of mad at this movie because it's like the only time I don't completely hate Jared Leto, because otherwise I generally hate Jared Leto. But
but
here I'm like, I like him in this movie. I think he's, I don't know, maybe it's because he has like, this is a young Jared Leto, bright-eyed and bushy-tailed in
it
the
is.
90s. And so I'm
This
like,
is
all
like
right, he's cute, he's young, he's like, he's doing his best. It was before he got weird, but
this is my so-called life, Leto. This is like before Angel Face and Fight Club even. Like this
yeah,
is like, oh, if you knew what the future held for you, Mr.
yeah.
Leto.
Not realizing COVID happened because he was meditating in the desert for 2 weeks. That
He's fine in the movie. He has some really good deliveries that really surprised me. If my phone is vibrating, it's literally stylus substance. If like it's
uh,
picking up on the recording.
truly trying
Um,
to capitalize on our fame right now.
true, true. I'm trying to get him to watch Candyman,
Oh,
but
that's a good choice.
yeah,
But yeah,
he
j
has some really good deliveries. The first delivery that kind of took me off guard because I don't really consider him a great actor. I'm not. I
me
don't
neither, by
really.
the way. No, me
Yeah,
neither. I like him in this though. This is like the one
it
time I'm like, I like Jared Leto.
it plays on those dark qualities like that he
Yeah,
does have because he was supposed to be like that Keir Dullea character from like Black Christmas. Like you are kind of supposed to not really trust this good-looking, dashing, blue-eyed boyfriend a little bit. Like he is a, kind of supposed to be that archetype, but he nails these darker lines um, really well. I'll point some of them out, but the first one that comes to mind is definitely the whole like a woman died here. You don't care about that at all, Paul? And he goes, well, no, I don't, but because of my article, 3,500 students will. I think that's what helps me sleep at night.
yeah.
Like,
It's the end of the delivery
it
where
is. I don't know how he does it. I can't even mimic it. It's so good.
so weird. It's like this weird inflection of his voice where it's like he knows he comes off not sincere at all, but it's
It's so
great.
good.
He really nails just being a piece of shit, like a
Still,
total self-absorbed asshole.
Brenda like nails what I think of Leto's entire persona, which is you're cute, but not that fucking cute. Like she
Yeah,
nails
I was
it.
gonna say that his last scene is also really, or that last scene, the
That last
confrontation
scene
between
deserves
everyone.
a whole conversation, but Danielle Harris is next if you wanted to say anything about the gothic queen herself.
Oh my God, Danielle Harris, that's so good. No, I don't have much to say. She's not in the movie much. I just know
Neither.
that she's an eternal vibe, and I want to be her. I don't know. I don't know what else
That's
to
fine.
say. I want to be Tosh in this movie.
I had a
That's the
crush on
life.
her when I was a kid. I had a crush on her, man. I think everybody with taste did.
It's
Um,
such a good vibe. It's such a good vibe. As soon as when I first watched this a few months back and I saw her in the movie, I was just like, yeah, I'm so happy there's this kind of character in this movie. I'm so happy.
the only thing I will say about her death is that I mean it's wonderfully set up, going through the motions of walking on her having sex and putting on earphones so that she does that regularly so she doesn't think anything of when she senses another person in the room murdering her. But the one thing I will say about her death is that the dean, who is played remarkably well by one of the X-Files villains, he's really good. The dean and the campus police officer both would rather assume that this is a teenager being performative and being theatrical about her suicide rather than an actual problem, something they can easily ignore. It plays into kind of like one of the major themes of most of these late 90s movies that culminated in actual in actual horror from like kids who were super cynical who didn't feel like they were being recognized. But so that's Danielle Harris, and I have to actually jog my mind right now about who dies next.
Oh gosh.
Um,
It's not Tara Reid. No, she's
is
near
it
the end.
the dean?
It might be the
Actually,
dean. Yeah, it might actually be the dean, if I remember correctly.
yeah, it's the dean.
Which,
He gets the old Achilles heel cut. John Neville's really good. He
yeah,
was,
he's cool.
yeah, he's really good. But he's another fucking character. So far, like if you're watching this film as a normie, so far you don't give a shit about anyone who died. Like the
I
slutty
mean,
bitchy roommate
yeah,
died, the asshole frat boy died, and the old crotchety fucking piece of shit Dean died. Like, you don't care. You
yeah.
don't care so far. Um,
And then the dean dies, and then I think
Parker is one of my favorite horror movie
yeah,
deaths.
I was gonna say then it's Parker, isn't it? Parker's
Parker,
fantastic.
holy shit, did they go so fucking hard on Parker? Like, that is it fucked me up as a kid watching it because the editing is also extraordinary for Parker's death.
Yeah.
And it plays on I do hate that every time someone gets a phone call on a movie, it's like people to go directly to Scream when that's been like done since like Black Christmas when a stranger
Oh,
calls type thing.
the call is in the house. The phone
Yeah,
call.
but I guess if you're trained with Scream, you're expecting an enjoyable, kind of witty banter of a
And
phone
at this
call.
point in the movie, you're led to presume that it's Jared Leto as well.
You're led to presume, yeah, that it's Jared Leto, and he presumes it's Damien Brooks because his name is like haunting this fucking movie forever because of the caller ID.
Oh
I think
yeah,
the
it's
caller
his
ID
name.
was a major fuck you to Scream of like, yeah, we have caller ID, assholes. Like, I can see who's calling. But his death is so wild. This is after the scene where he yells at Jared Leto at the party, and he is like so energetic, nailing every one of his lines. And the camera work is really well done, and we're getting all sorts of urban legend Easter eggs on the way. Like,
What
um,
does he call him? He says you Woodward Bernstein wannabe.
yes, oh God, it's fucking great. He comes right out and says that it's really cool because if you want to do like a meta contextual analysis, maybe like Jared Leto is trying to like stake his name in horror. I know that this movie was originally written by like someone who just worked at a perfume counter, like not someone who is necessarily in the business. And if you read it as like you're just trying to like hop onto this train of like trendy, like weird kind of ways to kill people, he does say the word trendy on purpose to kind of hammer home
Mm.
Scream and all them were definitely called trendy horror movies. And he's almost criticizing the actually all Parker does is criticize the exact plot of the movie. He doesn't ever believe it for a second unless he can pin it on this kind of shallow news reporter.
Mm.
That's when he kind of gets into it. But Parker's death, though, that's incredible to me.
The dog.
Yeah,
They microwave the dog and then drown him in a toilet.
like
And
the
then
way Parker
what?
acts.
Oh yeah, and also there's a really good camera movement in that scene too. Like
There is.
it turns
Mhm.
into this weird like early 2000s, like the camera's just like chaos. It looks like a music video almost at points during that death. It's really funny.
Yeah, there's a cut and like a dynamic moving camera every time when he opens that microwave and goes, "Fuck you, sick motherfucker!" Like at every
Like he
part of the
really
word.
thought it was Damon too. He still thinks it's Damon in that moment. That's the
Yeah,
funny part.
and that's just the first act of his brutal murder is putting his dog in a fucking microwave. And judging by the way Parker talks on the phone to this killer, I would have loved to see him talk to Ghostface. He didn't give a shit on this phone. It was really funny. A
To be
really
fair,
entertaining
I'm pretty sure
character.
that dog was gonna die anyway, considering they were like chugging beer down its throat.
And apparently, like according to Damon, piercing its nose. Like, yeah, that
Like that
dog should have been taken from that premises a long time
I
ago.
remember that was the one part of the movie where I most felt anxiety. The first time I was like, why are they force
It's
feeding
very
the dog
fun
beer?
rewatching the movie and just imagining like Rebecca Gayheart doing all these things, like just picking up a dog, plopping it in a microwave, making a phone call.
Oh, it's so good.
But Parker gets like he gets knocked out in the bathroom, which he goes to vomit in after finding his dog's remains in the microwave. Then he gets tied up and gets a fucking like tube shoved down his throat, gets pop rocks and Drano just plunged into his system. And it's fucking rough. And it really brings
It's
for
bad.
me,
It's rough.
like, it brings to mind like all the kind of horror stories you would hear growing up about the dangers of frat boys and binge drinking. I'm not sure if it was going for that, but that's what I felt from this scene, especially with the
honestly, for me, that death was more for me what I think Damon was for you, because I just loved that character so much. I really, really loved him.
Parker was
Um,
awesome. I
maybe it's
loved his
because
clothes.
Parker.
I loved everything.
Maybe it's because Parker's like a piece of shit, but he's not like as uncomfortable a piece of shit as Damon was. Because Damon was just like, I was like, you're just a bad person, whereas Parker is a piece of shit who's a frat bro. Who
Yeah.
wants to get a dog drunk and probably give a dog weed or some shit. Like that's his vibe. And I'm like, all right, that's fun to watch. I want to, like, every time he's on scene, I just gravitated to him. I loved watching him in every scene. He really
He's
nails it. It's great.
magnetic. He never
He's
had this
really, really
again. He's
magnetic.
so magnetic. Michael Rosenbaum killed it. Absolutely. And
And
Tara
granted,
Reid.
yeah, go ahead. Tara
But
Reid's great.
a breath of fresh air. Yeah.
Tara
Yeah, he's
Reid's
great.
also great. Everyone's funny in this movie. Everyone's fun. It's great.
And Tara Reid's death
The
plays on
darkest by
exactly, yeah,
far.
the performative nature as well, because everyone hears her die on the radio, but they don't believe it. They believe it's a performance stunt in
Well, it's set up
celebration of
really
the Stanley
well.
Massacre. Yep.
It's set up really well because there's the line where the guy's talking to her about how you hear the screaming on the phone, or on
Oh yeah.
the music track. I forget what the song was, but he's like, you hear screaming. He's like, yeah, dude, that's a real scream in the background that they got off police tapes. And she just walks away, and then it actually happens.
And this Tara Reid's death did evoke feelings of Sarah Michelle Gellar's death, and I know he did last summer, being
Oh yeah,
chased
for
out of your
sure.
workplace. The length of it as well. Sarah
Because it's
Michelle
just
Gellar's
torturing
death was
her.
like really poetic, though. Sarah Michelle Gellar's death.
Well, because
I'm
both
a,
are just like torturous to watch.
yeah, but
Because you feel bad for these people finally, like you feel genuinely bad for someone because she's just saying, I don't want to die, and she just gets
yeah,
hacked with an axe. It's really sad.
I do think Helen's death, and I know he did last summer, is a lot more powerful.
Oh,
I
for
feel
sure.
like,
No, for sure. It's that's a definitely more moving, upsetting death scene, I think.
but
But
they
I
reminded me of each other for sure. I can see the parallels to Scream. It's just unfair to completely marginalize, or well, Williamson's work, not just Scream. It's
Yeah,
unfair to
I know what you mean.
marginalize it completely, though. Especially since this one can like stand on its own as going on. We have nothing to do with Kevin Williamson, and
Mm,
like Halloween H2O and all the other ones really can't exactly say that. Um, Although there is the Dawson's Creek connection with Joshua
yeah,
Jackson.
fair enough.
We can talk about Brenda now.
Yeah, oh my God, Brenda, my heart and soul. I love this woman. She's so great. It's funny because she doesn't really she's kind of a quiet character, or like quiet in terms of like you don't really notice her much for so much of the movie, and then in 5 minutes flat, she steals the whole movie.
She really does. Holy
It's
shit.
astonishing what she does in just one scene. It's great.
And people talk all this bullshit about movie magic being some ineffable fucking no. Movie magic is Rebecca Gayhart's naturally curly hair being allowed to be as crazy as it needs to be as she's screaming like bingo at fucking Alicia Witt, showing her a slideshow. Like
I
that is cinema.
I was writing down notes as well while watching, and by the end, I was just writing down quotes from Brenda.
Ding ding ding.
My favorite was she's like, "You're crazy." And she's like, "I prefer eccentric. You could say I'm nutty." Or she's like, "You need help," and she's like, "I already tried therapy. Clearly, it didn't help."
And and just saying the lines doesn't do it justice because she's doing these contortions with her face or these poses like for milliseconds in between words or at character beats, and they're wonderful. They play into this so well. Brenda is one of my favorite horror villains. She's really
Just
awesome.
chewing up the scenery. She's just chewing it. She's
I would have
so
loved it if she chewed more of it. I don't want any of it
no.
left.
I'm glad that we just get a morsel. We'll always be left wanting more. We'll
We
always be,
will.
although sort of fulfilled, but that's another story than Urban Legend 2.
And her with the gun to Jared Leto's head going, we'd be really fucking hot together, Paul.
You're cute, but you're not that cute. It's so
Oh my
funny.
God.
She just slays it the whole movie, or that whole sequence. It's fantastic.
She really
And
does, and I think out of everyone, she had to go through an audition process that she described as savage, as
no,
really
that
difficult
makes
to get
sense.
that part,
Yeah, that
which
makes
is
sense.
really
They
funny. At
needed
the end
someone who
of
could sell that.
yeah, and at the end of the movie, they're talking about Brenda, like, oh yeah, sure, sure, it's like Brenda's my ex cousin's roommate. Yeah, sure, Brenda's that girl from those Noxzema commercials, and
And then you sent me that. She
I
was
sent you the
actually in
link.
Noxzema.
She was the Noxzema girl, for sure. Fucking fuck, man. I miss postmodern movies sometimes. But Brenda, holy shit, it's great. Do we want to? Okay, Brenda's motive is I get way more out of the performance acrobatics than the actual reason she's doing it, but we can dive right
Yeah,
into
yeah,
it.
it's mostly just serviceable as far as backstories go. Although I do like that. I always like it when the lead is not actually an outsider to what happens.
Yeah.
You know, I like it when it's revealed that the lead actually is, at least in slasher movies, because you see that a lot, especially with like, stuff like classic slashers, Friday the 13th, the original Halloween. It's a lot of characters that are exterior to whatever drama previously took place. There's always a lore to the slasher, and it's usually the main character or their final girl is not part of it. But I appreciate that Alicia
I
Witt
I
is connected.
I do want to dive into Brenda just slightly because I do want to connect it back to what Wexler was saying, who is dead by now, dies off screen. But what Wexler was saying about like folklore is how society gauges its values, and they're modified through each new generation. Like for fun, just for fun. What are Brenda's values?
None. She just wants to
Yeah,
get
yeah. What is
married.
she doing?
She
She just
wanted to
wants to
marry
get
her
married,
boyfriend. It's a really
and but it's not like true love because she'll settle for Paul.
Yeah, but
So
then she also won't settle for Paul. Like there's a whole sequence of like her heart getting broken, and I actually like that scene at the party where she finds them kissing, and because like that's not her faking crying, that's like her actually crying because
yeah,
she's
she's
actually
actually being upset.
sincerely hurt. I actually like that. I thought that was a nice touch rewatching it because I
Dude,
didn't
what
catch that the first time, of course. But you
fucking
watch it again, and but then she completely sidelines him because she's like willing to break, like her heart's broken. She wants to kill this girl over it, but then she's also like, I don't really care about you.
just hate fuels her. Just hate
Yeah.
because she's like she gets a little complication and she goes, "All right, bullet in the head's not urban legend style, but it'll do. Like you're gonna
Yeah,
sacrifice
that's a
all of
really
this
good line.
work, like
She
all of
creates this
this very
really
careful plotting." Oh, I
you
do love the scene where Alicia Witt is running around trying to find Brenda because she's screaming, luring her into the old Stanley Hall building, and she comes across everyone's dead body who she didn't already know was
Oh
dead.
yeah, that's a real nice like haunted house scene type thing.
It
It's
really
great.
is.
That's the kind of thing you'd find in like House of a Thousand Corpses, just like an early 2000s pop slasher. It's
It's,
really great.
it's the closest slashers can get to a flashback montage of like, oh yeah, all our happy memories.
Memories with Joshua Jackson's dangling from a noose.
And
The real
Parker's
urban
just covered
legends
with.
were the friends we made along the way. It's great.
Don't you want to be an urban legend? All of your friends are now. I
Are
think that's
now.
a really powerful line, and I want to crack into that. I mean, because I guess, right, she did make her friends larger than life. She did immortalize them by killing them in very specific ways, or she trivialized their deaths by killing them in already like.
I mean, if there's any um like like anything with that further, I think the most interesting is at the end in the like that last car ride where she's like, all of this is going to be forgotten. I'll become like a man, you'll become a cop. I think
That's really
I
cool.
that was the scene I thought was most compelling because it I don't know, it made the whole movie a little bit sadder because it's like you saw these people die. And it's like, yeah, but it's all going to be forgotten. It doesn't matter. It's a really good, I don't know, sentiment to end the movie on, especially because it capitalizes on that. And then you find out like,
Absolutely.
no, this maybe this isn't actually how the story went. You know,
That's beautiful.
it's really
That's
nice. Like the whole
beautiful.
twist at the end. Yeah.
Almost because it might even be like a heavy-handed thing too, with Rebecca Gayhart's character at the end being like, "This is how it really happened." Everyone who tells an urban legend is butchering it, and like reframing it into something that mirrors something they want or something like that too.
Yeah.
Um,
The fact that there's a sequel with at least two recurring characters complicates that, but I don't think it matters that much in the grand scheme of things. I think it works. I really think it works. Like the whole idea that you should call the events of the movie itself into question or their
you
authenticity.
you definitely should, because the atmosphere never goes away. Jamie Blanks, whose a name I haven't said since we started this, the director, does a very
Yeah,
good job of creating this dreamy atmosphere. Like it does feel dreamy.
I think this movie is like razor sharp. I really, really think it is. It's so clean to look at. The shot composition, editing, the color looks so good. Maybe it's a New England
Hmm.
thing because I'm from New England, so I like movies that have like this, northeast autumn feel, but with like all the browns and the golds. But it looks really pretty. I really love the color. It's great. It looks nice. It's well made.
It,
It's so well
it,
made.
I think it's extremely well made. I think it is maligned. I went my whole life, like 30 years of it, thinking this film was like pretty decently respected. Not as much as Scream, but at least as much as I know he did last summer. But it's not. It's
Uh,
not.
uh,
And I guess
among
we can
people, or go ahead.
compare now. Like its
Mhm.
place in slasher history is kind of weird.
Yeah, it's vague. In a weird way, though, it's like it doesn't really feel like a Scream clone in a way because it's like people always questioned urban legends, so it's the kind of postmodern touches are almost few and far between. There's a few definitely, mostly in the finale, but I think in the build up to that, it's very subtle in a way. I don't know. What do you think?
Yeah, the postmodern touches are very few and far between, and and some of the most notable ones are directly referencing Kevin Williamson. So it's kind of difficult to say. I'm sure there are aspects of it that were directly by studio notes supposed to be Scream clone like. I'm
Yeah,
sure that
it's
had to
more the
happen.
vibe. It's more the vibe, like the
The
way it
vibe is
builds, like the
entirely different.
it's it does have a similar the Scream slash Scooby Doo thing of which of these characters is gonna be the killer and like setting up obvious people who look obviously guilty but aren't actually guilty. It does that, but it doesn't really insist on it, you know?
This one has a lot more in common with like a My Bloody Valentine
I
with
agree.
it's a lot more classic feeling, a lot more classicist. Like I like it. The color texturing, as you were saying, and the character development, the way the story feels, like it feels a lot more like My Bloody Valentine, a lot more like a classic slasher than anything deconstructionist that Williamson would do.
I agree.
Um,
I agree. It feels, I mean, I was gonna say it feels sincere, but that would imply like, Scream is insincere, which I don't think is true. I think Scream is very sincere, but
yeah.
it's
Well,
yeah,
Scream has that new sincerity. It has to go
yeah,
through
that's
its
what I mean.
postmodern thing. Yeah.
Exactly. This is more like trying to be like, no, you should actually feel bad for these people. Like this is although I guess again in the end it calls that into question, but that's almost more sad, you know.
Yeah, absolutely. Urban Legend to me is a fantastic movie. Um,
I love it. It's so fun. I kind of want to watch it again. It's just great.
oh, I definitely could watch it again for sure. Uh, and did you have to go somewhere around this
Uh,
time?
yeah, I do actually. Was
I
there
mean,
anything else you wanted to discuss?
I mean, I can go on about Joshua Jackson for another hour, but
No.
no, I think
You,
we covered. It's a great movie. It's a great
it's
movie.
fun. It's just a
I think it's
blast.
being reclaimed, so it's going to have its
Yeah.
place again.
Yeah.
So,
And I'll get you
and
to
its
talk
place should
about
be, yeah,
I'll get you to talk about Final Cut at some point because I have a lot to say about Final Cut.
Final Cut. We'll give that a minute on Final Cut.
Yeah, well, when the time is right, when the time is right, but it's a very different beast from this. Very, very, very different.
It's
But
been so
no,
long since I've seen it.
it's probably a lot more interesting to like dissect, but it's less,
Hey, I think
engaging to watch. Yeah,
we did a fine job with Urban Legend. I
yeah,
hope
we
you guys
did.
enjoyed listening to us watching it. Well, whatever. Hope you enjoyed the video. Uh, Thanks for watching. Oh, my sign-offs are really good.
No, it's great. You just have to have like an outro tune. Like as you're saying like your final words, you just hear like a trap beat, like quietly building volume in the background with like synths behind it.
Oh shit. We're making the most comprehensive videos about the movies everyone
We
forgot, and I love
forgot
it.
existed. Yeah, I have
Yeah.
to. We have to come up with the next one though.